Shalom and welcome everyone again to the ICEJ webinar series. I'm your host, David Parsons, Senior Vice President and Spokesman for the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem. We're here in Israel's capital city in our TV studio, talking this week about how October 7, the mass terror attack from Gaza, has changed the entire Middle East. The 18 months or so of war now and a lot of changes in the region. And to help us understand what's going on is our friend Yigal Carmon. Good to see you, Yigal. Yigal is an incredible expert, a straight shooter, has a whole long history in the Israeli military intelligence, a counterterrorism expert, and he is president and founder of the Middle East Media Research Institute, otherwise known as memory.org. If you go to their website, memory.org, you will be impressed with the whole pool, the archive of videos that are translated there, different news reports. That what he does, he follows not only Arabic, but Farsi,
Turkish,
which is around Turkish, Urdu, which is Afghanistan, Pakistan.
Yes, and lately, I mean, 10 years,
Russia
and China.
And China. Oh my. And he's really, when you look at the list of people that he has briefed, many briefings in the U.S. Congress, the State Department, the Pentagon, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Justice, the FBI, National Security Council, that's it just in the U.S. alone, the European Union, European Parliament, UK Parliament, the Organization of Security Cooperation in Europe, NATO, you were an advisor on security, Arab affairs, to Prime Ministers Yitzhak Shamir, Yitzhak Rabin. When I want to know what's going on, I go to my friend Yigal Carmon, and some of you, if you follow our webinar, you know that he was the first one we brought on after October 7, because in September, just a month or so before, he had warned something like that was coming. If anyone could really predict with authority, with the right credentials, that something was about to happen and give a warning, was Yigal. Good to have you.
Thank you.
We got a lot of ground to cover, but I think on the front burner right now is the Iran talks. The new President Trump is talking to the Iranians, direct talks. I mean, there's a mediator, but tell us what's happening there.
Yes, well, the Iranians stand by their principles that it won't be direct talks. And it's not just a matter of diplomacy. It's a principle that we do not recognize you. We do not.
The great Satan.
Yes, yeah. Of course. But what about the talks? There is a lot of worry among circles in America that the president is too nice, that the special envoy Witkoff is so nice to them.
There's worries in Israel too.
Worries in Israel, and I think this is very misplaced because we are, first of all, at the same time, the president is sending a third carrier to the Gulf, the Persian Gulf, and and a lot of support, ammunition, and weapons to Israel. So this goes side by side. But indeed, this is a period where both the Americans and the Iranians are talking about the general idea of having negotiations. Well, this is so nice, this is so good. What's wrong with that? Mm-hmm. But the moment the real issue will be put on the table, all the niceties will disappear. Mm-hmm. And this was to happen on last Wednesday, and it was postponed at the request of the Iranians. Mm-hmm. There was to be a meeting of the experts. Mm-hmm. And the meeting of the experts talk about the real issue. What do we want and what are you ready to do? And it was postponed again. There, suddenly, the whole worry will disappear because the president is absolutely right on. Carriers to arrive to the Gulf take time. They don't fly. They go on the sea. It takes time. And this time it's well exhausted by negotiating, goodwill and negotiation, discussions. Not yet anything about substance. The moment once the carrier arrives and the substance will be discussed, all the worries about the position of America will disappear.
Okay, well, that's a comforting position to take here. You were part of the Israeli delegation in the Madrid talks. In the talks with Syria, because normally in the talks like that, you go in with experts, you know the psychological profile of who is across the table from you. But this Steve Witkoff, he's dealing with the hostages, he's dealing with Ukraine, he's dealing with Iran, Trump's sending him everywhere. He has no idea who Ayatollah Khamenei is, but you think that's part of the nice side, charm, get him in the room and then hit him hard with the details.
It would have been better if he had known much more. But at the end of the day, there is something that America wants, no enrichment. This is what President Obama gave them against the will of the whole world of Europe. And now we are back to that. No enrichment.
It's almost the deal from 2015.
Yeah, as if, but people. America's position now, as it is leaked here and there, is no enrichment. You can have nuclear facilities, but you don't do
the uranium is brought in from Russia or somewhere.
Yes.
It's measured. You know how much. You use it in the plant, and then it's sent back that same amount out.
The only reason why they want enrichment in their own country is to be able to have it. Already it's 60%. Already, Rafael Grossi, the head of IAEA, the international agency, said they have enough for 6 bombs.
6 bombs.
This is
at
why
60%, and within a week or two you can make enrich it to 90 for at least one bomb.
And they said that this is 60% is for ships, for submarines. Right? They will move potatoes and tomatoes in submarines. Right? This is only for the chance to be able to produce a bomb. That's all. And this is where the president says, no enrichment. You can have any nuclear thing you need to develop to do. Why not? But no enrichment. And he goes back to the basis, not to 2015. And this will come out very soon.
Okay, well, that's a good positive take on Iran. When we talk about how the region has changed, Iran's ring of fire around Israel with Hezbollah, with Hamas and all, that is also, a lot of that has been stripped away, and that makes a big difference in Iran. They don't have the protection, those layers of protection of their nuclear program.
So what did they do? The moment they realized that the president is very serious about it, right away they ran to Putin, they ran to Xi, they ran to their supposed allies. I must say, I saw on Jazeera the talk between Arakchi, the foreign minister of Iran, and Lavrov. They showed only the Iranian talking about the strategic alliance. The Russian didn't say a word, no word.
Well, they just signed some sort of strategic
agreement. I guess you could sign with them on the same document.
All right. I want to go to Qatar next, because I know you have some very definite views on Qatar. We discussed it even in just 2 or 3 days after October 7 when we talked to you, that you laid a lot of responsibility for October 7 on their plate. Prime Minister Netanyahu recently said Qatar is not an enemy state. There's challenges, there's difficulties, but they're not an enemy state. What is your assessment
Well, this
No.
is a real reason to worry, not Iran with regard to the American administration, but with the president about the relations with Qatar and Turkey. Two criminals.
President Trump's relations
Yes,
with them.
he
Okay.
considers them friends of America. They are enemies of America. He says they are his friends. Okay, this is political and diplomatic talk, but there is a meaning to it, and it shows that he doesn't see enough of the danger. These two are absolute enemies, Muslim Brotherhood. This is really the source of evil in this world. They, first of all, to Muslims, they want to drag the Muslims to the 7th century Islam. There is Islam and there is Islam. Most Muslims, almost 2 billion, are modern, half westernized, not committed to what the Muslim Brotherhood, Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, the Qataris and the Turks and Erdogan, because Turkey became a secular state until he took over and changed everything. They want to drag the Muslims of the world to the 7th century, and that would be war with the West. And they are preparing for it. For years they are preparing for it. They are no friends of President Trump. He believes so, or maybe it's just diplomatic talk. It seems more than diplomatic talk. There is the basis in Qatar, but the basis in Qatar serves Qatar, not America. America doesn't need real Qatar. It can locate any moment to the Emirates or to Saudi Arabia. And at that moment, Qatar would be crushed. I really don't believe why. I don't believe that the president is really not thinking about it. It should be taken. Qatar should cease to exist. The moment the base is not there, Saudi Arabia will take it. They tried in 2017,
Yes.
and Jared Kushner saved them. This is a thought. Now, there is even here one happy news. Jordan decided that they will ban the Muslim Brotherhood. They are banned in Saudi Arabia, they are banned in Egypt, they are banned in the Emirates, they are banned in many places. In Jordan, they were half allowed in the parliament under supervision, but lo and behold, they prepared a whole base of terrorism in Jordan. They claimed that this is against Israel, with Iran and others. But until it is against Israel, it was in Jordan, in populated areas, production of bombs, of drones, of crazy.
In order to attack the monarchy, the
Yeah,
regime.
of course. And they did demonstrate against the monarchy. They have a party somehow affiliated to the movement, a legitimate party in the parliament. They are better, but still not good enough. Anyway, Jordan decided to go again to its September 70. The same story happened with Arafat.
With the PLO.
With the PLO, they established themselves as if against
A
Israel.
state within a state.
And then it was against the king. This is what the Muslim Brotherhood is doing now, and Jordan decided to take action.
It's really, I mean, they banned the Muslim Brotherhood because last week or a couple of weeks ago they found all these weapons and also factories for making weapons, drones, where they were going to, and plans to attack not Israel but the regime. And but it's a declaration of war by King Abdullah against them,
and it's like his father did in 50 years, 75 years after, the same thing.
Black September.
Black September is coming again.
1970,
Yes.
yeah. Because they had hijacked airplanes with Israelis on it in Amman, and blown them up, and Jordan felt it lost its sovereignty over its own territory.
3 airplanes in Azraq, in the desert. Well, now they moved to do it right in the capital in populated areas.
Do you think the Jordanian regime is strong enough to face up to what is a fairly popular movement?
And like the father of this king, King Hussein, when needed, he will have Israel's support.
Israel's
also.
support plus CIA and
When,
British.
of course,
and
when
all.
needed, when needed. I'm not sure he will need
But it's
that.
his strength of his kingdom, his monarchy is the Bedouin
Right,
clans.
and this has changed. The Bedouins have become very religious.
Okay.
At the time, they were the pillar of support of the king. Today, it's different. If you drive from Amman to Aqaba and you go through all these areas,
Yes.
it's like Afghanistan. Ancient times. It's different. Still, they are Jordanians. They don't want to be taken by foreigners. of
But
any-
you're not worried about the stability of Jordan, given that the majority of the population identify as Palestinians who really...
No. It is to worry when the regime ignores and pretends the danger. But
Okay.
when it takes a stand,
That's
there is no
encouraging,
worry.
yeah.
This is the problem for years. They let it develop. They say, well, why should we fight now? It's not that horrible. It's not that. And that's how it develops. The moment they take a stand and fight, the population will support them.
But when they view the Muslim Brotherhood as like a mortal enemy now,
Yes, with Iran.
they're like Egypt now, the Al-Sisi.
Because the whole thing that was found in Jordan was with training in Lebanon, all with Iran. All with Iran.
With
This
Muslim Brotherhood getting
with
help
Iran,
from
of course,
Iran.
like in
That's-
Hamas, like with Hamas, like with
Hamas,
Islamic Jihad.
like the guys
Yes.
who assassinated Sadat.
Yes,
you know.
yes. It's even though these are Sunnis and these are Shiites,
Yeah.
but what unites them is the
Hatred.
pro-Western regimes
Yeah.
like Sadat and the
Okay.
pro-Western regime like King Abdallah, and they unite on common enemies.
Yeah. So you've testified in front of all kinds of officials in America, Europe, and all, but help our folks understand the Muslim Brotherhood a little better. It was actually started by, I guess, a teacher, an educator in Egypt, Bana,
Right.
who said
28.
he put
Yeah.
a lot of emphasis on if you want to take control, you first have to educate the people and draw them into what we now consider fundamental or radical Islam.
Yes.
And it's sort of educate now, jihad later. And chapters of the Muslim Brotherhood sprang up all over the Middle East. As far as Sunni organizations, it's the most organized throughout the region. Erdogan, it's had success in Turkey.
Yes.
And of course, Hamas is more jihad now, but they're Muslim Brotherhood, and you're
Absolutely.
saying...
You know, David, the thing is this, and this is a known talk about Syria with the new leader, and what the people discuss, is it this or is it that? Is he wearing a tie and a jacket? And what I say, this is Islam. It's both this and that.
They can wear
You
a suit and
do
tie.
what you need to do. Prophet Muhammad, Prophet of Islam, of course, did everything. He fought jihad, and he made an agreement in Hudaybiyah, a temporary agreement. You know, in the time in the Ottoman Empire, they would besiege Vienna in the middle of 1519 and 1683, and at the same time, in the 16th century, 1529, sorry, they would make an agreement with the royal or Catholic royal of France, Francois I. It lasted 250 years. They would bring Christian schools to Istanbul. They would anything at the same very time, fighting the infidels and allowing. This is politics. Islam is a political religion. It's not like Christianity. It's not like most of Judaism.
You can't separate them.
You cannot separate.
We separate church and state,
Yeah.
but they...
Yes, and they didn't, and they cannot. This is an Islamic, and the guy in Syria, he is both a jihadist and a politician. This was the Prophet of Islam, a jihadist and a politician. Not, is it this or is it that, and should we? No, he's both. And you do both. What you need, you do what you need to do to grow, to occupy, to conquer, by this way, by that way. Islam of the Ottoman Empire, this is the model. A treaty with the Catholic Royal of France, schools of infidels in Istanbul, and at the same time besieging Vienna. No contradiction.
The thing that unites them is a global, the vision of a global caliphate where Islam conquers the world. In their prophetic view, it's inevitable, and that's
until religion is to Allah only.
You mentioned al-Shara, the new leader in al-Shara, the new leader in Syria. He just met with some congressman who was sort of on an unofficial visit, and he said, "I'm even willing to make peace with Israel." This
in
is
certain appropriate condition. Yeah. Look, this is a discussion that goes on in the administration, and it's all at fault. Is it this or is it that? Should we? No. He is this and that, and he will be nice when there is a place to be nice, to grow, to be safe, secure, and
if he
grow.
gets stronger, then he'll break it all.
Yes. And what's the contradiction? No contradiction. And therefore the whole debate is a misplaced debate in the administration. He's both, that's all.
Yeah, he's trying to get out from under sanctions, Western sanctions.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it is quite interesting. I mean, when I don't know if he mentioned it. I mean, we don't know what this congressman exactly said, but the reports are saying he wants in on the Abraham Accords. That's
yes.
That's a bit rosy.
The Prophet of Islam did the Hudaybiyah agreement with his enemies.
With a tribe of Jews, yeah.
An agreement.
And 2 years later, he was stronger. He breached
18 months.
18 months.
Off with the agreement.
Which is part of why we see Hamas now saying we're willing to enter a truce, a 5-year truce. Why? We're weak. And the motto of Muhammad is when you're weak and on your heels, you can make a hudna, a temporary truce with your enemy.
Not only that, there are those clerics who say when you are weak, you are not allowed to fight the enemy. This is doing something against Islam to fight the enemy when you are weaker than him.
Okay.
To that level.
We want to talk about Gaza and Hamas, but we also talk about Egypt, because Egypt considers they've got a Muslim Brotherhood problem that they've kept in jail and whatever. It managed in the Arab Spring to get a year in office, and then the people rejected it. It was the largest human political protest in history, like 30 million.
But this is a very interesting story with Egypt today, because Sisi overcame the Muslim Brotherhood. However, lately, this is a very typical, to understand the Middle East, a lesson in Middle Eastern affairs. So it came out in the investigation in Israel of the assistance of the Prime Minister that Qatar worked through them against Egypt not to be part of the negotiation.
To present Egypt as in a bad light.
Not to be joined in the mediation, so-called mediation. It's a mafia extortion. It's not mediation. But anyway.
Yes.
And the Egyptians got very mad at them. So what do you do? What does Qatar do? The regular thing. They invited Sisi to Qatar, and they gave him $7.5 billion. And now they are all buddies and against Israel, and no more friction and no more that. This is the Middle East.
Wow.
You have misunderstandings, you have bad blood, money, you get the 7.5 billion, everything.
Wow.
But it won't hold too much because Egypt is 100 million people.
You only feed them for so long.
For so long, and the friction will return, and the Sisi will be invited again, and the Qataris that have enough money for that will feed him again with some. This is the Middle East.
Well, the latest reports say that Egypt has sort of taken the lead from Qatar in
Not anymore.
in the negotiations with
Not
Hamas.
anymore. After the 7.5 billion,
Qatar has
they are
back
the
in
ones.
the driver's seat.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I know you place a lot of responsibility because of the Algeria incitement on Algeria, even not only against Israel but against other Arab regimes in the region that aren't radical enough. But you know, there's support for Hamas. But I had Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus, former IDF spokesman, on a couple weeks ago, and he put a lot of blame on Egypt for the whole impasse in the negotiations over the hostages, that it's actually Egypt keeping Hamas alive in Gaza. Is it a shared responsibility between Qatar and Egypt as mediators that they're trying to keep Hamas alive, or is Egypt more?
It's shared, but no, it's Qatar more. Because
more?
Qatar is leading the whole thing.
Yeah.
And Qatar is leading the negotiations.
His main point was that they needed to let the civilians out into Sinai so that Israel could deal with Hamas. And by not allowing that, it's keeping Hamas alive in Gaza, hiding among the people.
The ones that want Hamas alive in Gaza are the Qataris.
Okay.
The Egyptians don't need them. The Egyptians are in a situation, the Americans said, if you don't take Gazans, we will stop supporting you. And this is very dangerous, so they have to be in and they have to play around and support. But it's a shared responsibility because Egypt allowed, not as a policy, they allowed the smuggling of weapons through tunnels. It's not a policy, it's bribery and whatnot. You know, Gaza was not under siege, only from the sea. But they opened a new checkpoint for them only in the middle of the border between Gaza and Egypt, the Salah ad-Din crossing point, and hundreds of thousands would come and go and would pay to the Egyptian group of generals who are running a lot of money, who are running it. It's called the Sons of Sinai. There is hardly any Sinai, only the head of it, Bedouin Arjani, but most of them are retired officers of the Egyptian army, and they are running it, and they allowed it. At some point they flooded those crossing tunnels, at some point they allowed it. It wasn't a policy, it was bribery.
Because the Egyptian military officers in charge there, they don't get paid much. And they see everyone making money, so they get in on it.
But if the president does the same, he goes to Qatar.
It's on a higher level, bigger bucks, add a few zeros.
That's what I said. This is how things are run in the Middle East.
Yeah, but you're saying the Rafah crossing, it's monitored, and the aid and the cargo.
But the Salah ad-Din crossing was just between them and Egypt.
Was this a main tunnel, or was it?
No tunnel.
Open
absolute crossing, official crossing.
I've learned something.
Yes.
Today.
And the Salah ad-Din road from the north to the
it's the old Via Maris, the way of the sea,
Yeah.
exactly.
And right into the crossing. So what siege, what nonsense.
Okay.
China, South Korea.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about Gaza.
Sure.
Trump says, look, it'd be great if you get the Gazans out, the civilians, and then we could remake it, and everyone, there was a lot of pushback. But there are countries taking in Gazans right now. It seems like there is a trickle. Could it turn into a flood? What are you hearing about allowing civilians to leave Gaza, whether temporary or permanent?
There are more and more rumors for now, because they're afraid for their life, that more and more are leaving. But I wanted to say something about Trump's plan. President Trump brought everything back to the 48 moment. You know, after World War II, there were millions of refugees all over Europe.
Exchanges of population.
Among them, the Jews who were survivors of the Holocaust. After that, so the principle was that they are to be rehabilitated in their new places. Then came the Bosnians, or before them in Turkey, in Cyprus. And the principle in the world was, with the UN, that they all are rehabilitated in their new place. Only with regard to the Palestinians, the UN took a decision that they go back to their homes, disregarding the existence of a state of Israel. It was a reversal of the Declaration of Independence.
It was an exception. Yeah.
An exception. And now Trump says, well, we are back to this moment. You look for a place, we offer you a good place. It's not in the world, it's not something unheard of. In the world it happened. In places of war, in Cyprus, in Yugoslavia, the ancient Yugoslavia, everybody moved, everybody resettled. Here, the idea is destroy the Jewish state. That's the whole idea. Back. Auda, return.
What do you see happening in Gaza? Is Israel going to be able to get these last hostages back? Will Israel be able to drive Hamas from Gaza?
I believe Israel can do that, can weaken them. There are those who say you cannot fight
Completely
an ideology.
eradicate.
Maybe you cannot fight totally destroy it, but you can weaken it. Nazism was fought, it was an ideology. Fascism was fought and weakened. Communism, why not this extremist ideology? This is not against Islam. This is against some extremists that want to turn the world into havoc. There is a way, like Nazism, like fascism, like communism, you defeat them by force. And then things look different. It will take time, David. I wrote, 2 weeks to the war, I wrote a piece called About the Future. And I said, this will take 10 years. And north of Gaza will become like Normandy. And south of Gaza will be one big refugee camp, like in Turkey, like in Iraq, like in Syria, like in Jordan. Huge refugee camps, millions. This, if they don't, if the world doesn't allow Israel to eradicate Hamas, this will be the future. 10 years, people told me, you are so pessimistic. I said, pessimistic? I'm optimistic. I don't know, only 10 years.
It could
maybe
be worse.
Yes, maybe no.
Yeah.
Who knows? This is not going anywhere. There is a way to finish it. Finish Qatari involvement, and the whole thing will calm down. But at this point, the president doesn't go that way. And all he needs to do is to deal with the CENTCOM base. Just make it smaller, move parts of it to Saudi Arabia. They will
get the message.
Yes, and they will stop their support.
And but they still, what's left of the Hamas leadership outside of Gaza is still hosted in Qatar and Doha.
And yes, of course, and Turkey.
Yeah.
And Turkey.
This is troubling. I know you want to sort of jump outside the region, but let me ask one last thing. Lebanon, the new government there under this former General Ayoun, who he seems very determined to disarm Hezbollah. Are they going to be successful?
It's tough. They don't have a real base in the population. They worked out somehow a government after 2 years with no president, then no government. They have huge support of the United States. But again, who is funding their army? Qatar. This is, yes, this is a prescription for destruction. They will support Hezbollah.
Why aren't the Saudis or the Emiratis in there?
Because the United States is not forcing it. This is it. And the president and the government, they are trying to somehow do, but they can't as long as these two actors, Qatar and Iran in this case, are allowed to be active there. There will be no end.
Yeah,
end.
I haven't seen his latest, but Tony Badran, who's a Lebanese and Lebanese affairs expert, a year or so ago, I read he was saying it was the U.S. that was paying the salaries of the Lebanese army.
Partially.
Partially.
The president doesn't want to pay. The president is, I shouldn't use that word obsessed because it's so legitimate. It's no obsession. He doesn't want to spend for the freedom of people who don't want to fight for their own freedom. It's legitimate. But reality is reality. And if he's not paying, who's paying? Qatar.
Qatar.
And so he's paying partially, but he welcomes Qatari money.
Yeah.
There you go.
But that's shocking because I know the Saudis and the Emiratis, they're saying they're willing to help there.
But they say, if the United States allows our enemies to be active there, let them deal with the problem. They don't learn, they never learn, let them have it again.
So Hezbollah is seriously weakened, but it's going to, they're not going to be forced to disarm.
No, nothing of that kind.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Then now you wanted to talk a little other troubles that Washington has, the Trump administration has.
And this is something that is happening, and no one in the United States pays attention enough to that. South Korea, one of the pillars of American security and defense in the world, is falling to the hands of the Chinese. The pro-Chinese
We're worried about Taiwan, but you're saying...
Taiwan has a defense pact, as far as I know. The Philippines have a defense pact. Japan has a defense pact. South Korea doesn't. And the Chinese are playing around, and they managed to have the president impeached. And in 2
He's pro-West.
months, and is in jail.
Pro-democracy.
And pro-West, pro-America, pro-democracy. In 2 months, there will be elections. The pro-Chinese in the parliament are impeaching every possible pro-Western candidate. And America...
Not letting him run in the
Not
election?
let him run. And America doesn't pay attention.
Doesn't even know what's going on.
Doesn't even know. We wrote about it. There was a big article by us in Fox, and we wrote about it in our outlets. And the Chinese, the last thing yesterday, how much they celebrate the fall of the pro-Western regime. This is, there is a real danger. With the Philippines, for example, this is funny. If anything is funny about that. The Philippines has a defense pact with America. So there is a ship in the South China Sea, a Filipino ship called from World War II. It's called Sierra Madre, and it's a Filipino Navy base in the sea. Now the Chinese are afraid to touch it with bullets because then the defense pact will come into action. So what did they do? They brought huge ships of extinguishing fires with cannons of water. They tried to drown it. Drown it. A scene from Hollywood.
Yeah.
because they wouldn't dare.
Is this a ship that went in the South China Sea between Taiwan and China?
It is because there is a conflict about the South China. The Chinese want to make it inner waters
So they
of
fired
China.
a lot of water cannons in,
Yes.
hoping to sink it.
So they were afraid to shoot the bullet. They tried to drown it. They didn't succeed. Sorry. In South Korea, they can do a lot. Also, the Taiwanese they say, okay, they break into our airspace, they do this. At the end of the day, they cannot dare to shoot one bullet because America will deal with them. South Korea is falling, and no one even pays attention.
China's buying everyone up, and they're buying up some of these
and they don't need
these South Korean politicians.
and they don't need to shoot bullets. They realize that they are limited with this way of action to expand. So they use the other ways, and this is something to raise the red flag in America. Pay attention. The pillar of South Korea, American bases, American strategic pillar is falling.
Okay. One last question. There was a report that the Trump administration is ready to sell $100 billion in arms to the Saudis. And
this is part of the alliance, and but they want so much more. They want $1 trillion. Trump wants to get back the huge American investments of decades.
Yes.
And the 100 billion is really nothing. It's about trillions.
Yeah. But does it include F-35s and things that could worry
I guess
Israel?
this is a sensitive place. I guess it will be limited in equipment. But who is arming itself to the teeth? Qatar. They are 200, 300,000 Qataris.
Yeah.
They don't have enough people, elderly, babies, for the amounts of weapons that they are buying. For whom is that? Maybe for missiles.
Are they reselling or just passing it on?
This will be for Taliban. This will be for Iran. God knows for whom. They don't have people to, not even enough babies to use them.
Yeah.
The solution to Qatar is, I know this sounds a bit too far, but America has to take it over somehow. To give American citizenship to all of them, to end this dictatorship of
51st state.
Yes, to end this dictatorship of terrorism.
Which has two faces. They're pro-Iran, they're pro-West, they're pro-Hamas.
Yes, and to end this tragedy, they are buying Europe, they are buying American education, they are buying, it's just, everything is coming out now.
Yeah, how can such one small country be such a peril to the whole world?
You know, America, this is maybe the last thing that America invaded Afghanistan believing that they are responsible for 9/11. Afghanistan, all of it. Well, this was wrong. The ones responsible for 9/11 are the Qataris. A Qatari former government employee, Khaled Sheikh Mohammed, was the mastermind of it. So, invading Afghanistan.
Was he Qatari national, or he was?
No, he got
from Saudi or something.
No, Pakistani, half Pakistani, half Kuwaiti. But he was the mastermind, and he is for 10 years now in Guantanamo, awaiting his trial, and is not brought to trial. Why? I will explain why. Because if he is going to trial, he will surely be sentenced to death, and he will open his mouth. That's why they are prolonging. Of course, he has lawyers, government lawyers. They do their work as best that they can. And imagine 10 years of postponement. 10 years. He's responsible for the
as the mastermind.
Yes, but he's also responsible for with his own hands, by his own admission, the slaughtering of Daniel Pearl. He is responsible for the first attack of the Wall Street Journal. Yeah. He is responsible for the first attempt on the World Trade Center in 93. He is responsible for what is called the Bujinka plan of terror to down 11 American planes over the Pacific. They managed with one. He is responsible for a huge number of attacks and plans against America.
And this was all while he was an official with the Qatari government?
The World Trade Center was after. The FBI came to arrest him in Qatar and told only to the emir. Within hours he disappeared. And then, after a few years, happened the World Trade Center. Richard Clarke, who was advisor on countering terrorism to 2 or 3 presidents, wrote it all in the book, in his book. How the FBI came to arrest him, how it was told, because of other attacks, how it was told only to the emir, and he disappeared. Within hours.
He had protection from the emir.
The emir, of course.
Yeah, this is...
Qatar is an American enemy. The fact that they give the base is to serve themselves, not to serve America. And the moment the base will not be there or will be reduced in size or will be, the Saudis are going to take over.
They'll be vulnerable. Yeah, they had their troops, armored columns lined up to head out that peninsula and take it over.
Yes, but then Jared Kushner negotiated the deal with them and stopped it.
Pulled their fat from the fire. You are a wealth of information and quite fascinating, trying to figure out how the region has changed since October 7, and in many ways it hasn't. It is still a wild Middle East.
Yeah, wild East.
And Muslim Brotherhood, and especially operating openly out of Qatar to accomplish many of its aims, is still going on. We hope we know God's watching over Israel, but it makes for a troublesome region. Yigal Carmon, the founder and president of MEMRI, the Middle East Media Research Institute.
If I may, there are many Christians in Korea, in South Korea. Many Christians.
True, and they would come under China and the oppression.
Imagine their fate under Chinese communists.
Maybe the evangelicals in America need to raise the alarm with the Trump administration over this. People falling asleep, and next thing you know, like Iran, no one knew that Iran would fall to the other side back in '79. But we thank you for your time, Yigal Carmon of MEMRI. It's MEMRI.org. MEMRI, and just a wealth of information, videos that are translated there from Arabic, from Turkish, from Farsi, the Persian language, Iranian.
Chinese and Russian.
And Urdu, Pashto, all this, following the whole region, giving you what they say. And what I appreciate about you, Yigal, you're a straight shooter. You say exactly what you think, and in so many ways you've always been right. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed today's ICJ webinar, and join us again next Thursday at 3 o'clock Israel time, 3 in the afternoon, for our next webinar. God bless you from Jerusalem.
Thank you for joining us today. Join us again next Thursday at 3 p.m. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on our social media platforms for more exclusive ICEJ content.